Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Secret Origins of Mint Condition. I am your host, James, and today we are talking about the King. Not that King, Elvis fans, not that King, so don't get excited. We're talking about another King, a King born out of fire, born out of man's hubris to think he could control nature. He rose out of the waters near Japan, stomped his way through Tokyo, and was an allegory for the atomic blasts that ended World War II. However, quickly after that, he went on to make many friends like Mothra, Ghidorah, Rodan, Hedera, and Jet Jaguar, and survived somehow Matthew Broderick as well. So we are talking about the king, the one and only, the king of the monsters, Godzilla. And to help me do that, as a frequent contributor to the show, friend of the show, Arco Esposito is here with us today.
Hello, James. Thank you for having me.
And new to the show, and hopefully a regular contributor in the future, is Sharif McIntosh is here with us today.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
So Sharif, before we fully dive into our in-depth conversation about Godzilla, since you're new to the show, I just thought I'd get a little background. So did you go to Mint Condition when it was around in Port Washington?
Yes. I got into comics a little bit late in life. So when I was 16, my friend Aaron Kreider, he took me and all the rest of our friends to the comic book shop, and it was Mint Condition. And that was the first time we had ever kind of been exposed to comic books. Like, we knew comic books, like, existed, but we were definitely not reading comic books or anything like that. And we went in there, and I think I got like Uncanny X-Men something. This is like the 90s, and I'm not an aficionado on X-Men like Arco, but they are my favorite, and they are the like most read comic books that I read, and I follow them through all the books and different plot lines. And I love Chris Claremont, and I recognize that he is one of the great contributors. When we kind of got into it, and we were kind of reading comic books pretty hard, and then Jim Lee came with that X-Men cover, and my life was changed. And I got real serious at that time, because prior to that I was kind of like, well, all of these books are like up to like 300 or 400 or 600, so I didn't really feel like I was on the ground floor with any of these comic books. So when Jim Lee did his soft reboot of X-Men, that really, first of all, Jim Lee is my favorite artist, so it was everything that I needed. I wanted, Chris Claremont was writing, Jim Lee was drawing, and it was amazing, and that really got me in. And then I was really, really a collector at that point, and really started getting serious about collecting comic books and kind of really following storylines and learning. And like, I had the cards, I had all the X-Men cards. I believe I had every single one. I don't know what happened to them, but
my heart is swollen with pride. This is, just to interrupt you real fast. This is why you and I are best friends, and actually brothers. Okay, because
yeah,
what a great James. Obviously not an X-Men podcast, because we've done plenty of those. But Sharif just said something that I had never even thought of in the past. But X-Men 1 was the most produced comic of all time, if I'm not mistaken, still. And this was back in 1991. And what a great starting point for so many people to get on to start out and not have to worry that they're missing so much or anything really. They could just start at number one, and boom, you're off to the races. So that was very good point, Sharif.
Yeah. So then I got a box, and then Mint Condition management changed millions and millions and millions of times, and it was sucked, because sometimes I got there and I'm like, "Hey, where's my box?" And they're like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Oh, brother." So I was really happy. After that, I kind of just Image was born. And then I followed all of my favorite artists over to Image, and I'm still like, right to this day, like, seeking out Spawn. I used to have like all of them, and I had a flood and all my comics were destroyed. And so first thing I did was made sure I had my comics in a rubber box now, like a Tupperware box
Mhm.
now. So that would never happen again. But then, I had to recollect. So I go to comic book conventions and anime conventions, and I'm always hunting down. And my wife is like super supportive of me buying random spawns
Oh,
and digging through the crates, looking for spawns. And, so I'm really thankful for that because, my wife could have been like, "What the hell are you doing?
gr-
Why are we wasting why are we wasting 2 hours down here for you looking through stacks?" So
greatest relationship ever. Oh,
yeah, so she totally gets that.
yeah.
Me and my friend just went to Vegas, and I literally spent like maybe $1,000 on comic books because they had originals, and they had them in those what are those things called,
They
where
Great.
they
they
were
have the
graded. They were graded.
yeah, they were graded. So I spent a lot of money in
You
there.
know,
My
you know
wife
you
wasn't there,
you know you
and she
can't
was
open those, right? You know you
I
can't open
know,
those.
I know. Yes, of course. So I think I brought like Black Panther
Oh,
#1,
nice.
and some other ones, a couple of Spawns, and yeah, I definitely I didn't gamble in Vegas, but I still lost my shirt.
Yes, you did.
my wife my wife was not happy about that one. She was like, "What the hell?" She's like, "How much did you spend?" I was like, I think less than 1,000. And I was there with Latif, Arco. You
Yeah,
remember Latif?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
Latif went out to the car, and I was like, "Bro, why'd you leave me alone? Alone, I'm terrible. I need the voice of reason to say you need to relax. Like you're spending way too much money."
That's
So
funny. That's funny.
yeah, that's where I'm at with it now. I kind of want to go back and get all of my old comic books, and I still like me and Latif still to this day, we go to different places and look for old comic books, like especially Image, because we didn't really realize at the time, but Image was so profound, like what they were doing, and we bought into the vision, like that this was a whole different deal. So sorry, I don't want to go on forever. I could literally go on forever,
No,
of
it's
my
good.
love for comic books. And
Have to have you back and talk about maybe X-Men at some point. I
Yeah.
was mentioning to Arco recently that I wanted to do an episode just on X-Men #1 because
oh
Yeah.
it's a book. I think
yes,
it's a book on its own without even like the rest of the Jim Lee run. That like
oh yeah,
Mhm.
aside from the storyline, like it's the
yeah,
most produced comic book of all time. It's
Yep.
right,
probably the highly most sought after sold book at the all time.
right,
Yep.
Most ordered book of all time because
It
it was the most
was.
right,
mass
It
produced.
was.
right.
It
So
had
I
like
And,
feel
it
like
had 5 different covers on it, so it made one big panoramic.
yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
it
great.
was
yep.
that. But then also there were I think there were a variant gold or chrome cover too for that as well that they put out.
Twas
Yeah,
the time, yes.
yeah.
It
So
was the gold foil
Oh,
variant
oh,
alternative covers. Yeah,
yeah.
and
unfortunately.
and my other frequent guest and co-host Joe is not here to say, Sharif, and Richie too, that I'm sorry when they took over. I'm sure they would say that your if your box got lost, I'm sure the two next owners of the grosses are sorry that
Yeah.
that your comic books might have gotten lost in the transition. So
They apologize profusely.
because I know Richie and Joe will be listening to this, and
Yeah.
they would probably feel like, "What happened to Sharif?" So I'm sure they won't.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Sharif, you've just unpacked a whole bunch of stuff. We'll have to have you back on. So I appreciate you going through that. But let's, I guess, transition into the topic of the day, Godzilla. So I'm going to ask both of you. So Arco, I'll let you go.
Okay.
What got you? Why Godzilla? Like, why are we here talking about the king?
James, we spoke about this off the air, and Sharif, I know, agrees with me. But we grew up in a time where the Godzilla films were on WPIX or HBO in the '80s, and they would have Godzilla marathons, and didn't matter which ones they were. Uh, or really what we were watching. We were just sitting there, and we didn't know it at the time. Like, I did not know there was a person in a suit. Did you, Sharif? I had no
No.
idea.
Yeah, we
I
were
was,
we
yeah,
were talking about that.
yeah. We're watching these monsters go at it, and what kid in their 6, 7, 8 years of age doesn't like a monster movie? And it doesn't have to be horror. And we weren't watching anything horrific. It just grabbed our attention, it grabbed our imagination, and there were so many different films to choose from. Whenever it was on, it was something to watch, and thankfully we were able to grow with it as the years went on. So
Yeah, no, I remember, like I said, we were just talking about this PIX or maybe TNT or TBS. They would run like their marathons of Godzilla, and at that time I was like watching professional wrestling too during the Hulk Hogan. It was like professional wrestling except for the monsters. Like,
yeah, the best of both worlds. Put them together.
Exactly. I mean, get this human story out of the way. I want to see Godzilla and whoever he's battling go
Right.
to town on each other.
Exactly.
But Sharif, was this similar for you, or what got you?
Yeah, it was exactly the same situation. I think what it catered to in retrospect was this idea of like it really planted the seeds for all of the things that was gonna love in the future: mutants, radiation, turning people into mutants,
Love radiation.
monster movies. I always like monster movies, and also my love of science fiction. Like most comic book people, we are pretty much science fiction fans. I mean, we like supernatural, we like everything because most comics are a hodgepodge of all different genres. But I really believe that science fiction is the core of most comic books, especially the ones that are super popular. So yeah, Godzilla. Yeah, like Arco said, I only like. I don't think I thought about Godzilla as a man in a suit running around like a fake set and smacking people around and stuff and being kind of goofy. I don't think I thought about that until like just before this. Like just before this, I was like, oh yeah, there was a man in a
Yeah.
suit. But as a child, like we don't know anything. We don't know what CGI is. We don't know anything. So we were from the era, me and Arco, unfortunately, we were from, well, not for, unfortunately, but it was an era of like the birth of special effects, right?
Yep.
So stop motion animation,
Animatronics.
right. And so it was a different time, Medusa, the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans. All of those movies were kind of like, like basically them figuring out special effects. And so I thought, at the time, Godzilla not moving super slow-mo and stop motion was amazing. Like I was like, how? I don't even think I thought about it, but in retrospect, I'm sure I was like, how are they doing this? Because he looks amazing. Like he's moving.
This is real.
Yeah, he's moving fluidly. Like they really have a dinosaur here. So
I mean, I think the man in suit actually idea came to me was like when I watched One Crazy Summer when Bobcat Goldthwait was in the suit for that one time. And I'm like,
one of the greatest Godzilla scenes of all time.
And I'm like, wait a minute, is Godzilla a man in a suit?
I don't think it. You know what? It did dawn on me when there was this Dave Chappelle skit where he was kind of like Godzilla. He was kind of just a big dude walking around Tokyo, smacking stuff around, and that's when I was like, I think it was a man in a suit this whole time. Like it didn't even dawn on me. And walking around, because he kind of like, showed us the man behind the curtain, because it was like he did exactly what they did, which was a giant man who's normal size, who's just walking around a set and smacking buildings
with
around.
tiny little tanks. So
well, we have a lot to cover. I'm sure we all have our favorite eras of Godzilla and probably our favorite movie of Godzilla. But I feel like I was listening to some YouTube videos in preparation for this, and I really didn't realize that it went the original Godzilla. It went Godzilla Raids Again. I think it went, was it Godzilla King of the Monsters, which was really just a U.S. remake. And then he went right to Godzilla versus King Kong, was the first Versus movie, which I had no idea that it started.
1962. And it was the first time that they had those two, pretty much any monsters against each other. It was a different version of King Kong. The name, it was just a big giant ape, obviously, with lots of different power set that you would never see again. But it was I love that film, and if you notice, they show that film probably the least out of any other one from the Showa era of Godzilla films, which is from 1954 to 1975. You could never find that on there, so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that the most of that era, other than, as I got older, I watched the original one, and that for what it was, the original one was considered the best of all of them, not because of the effects as much as the storyline that it and what Godzilla represented at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make the confession on here. Like, I've only seen the original Godzilla for the first time this past year. Like, I never,
Yeah.
because they never ran it. Like
No.
on
Yeah.
PAX, like
Yeah.
they were running a black and white Godzilla. It was always the colorful monster,
Right.
gut
Right.
bash.
Yeah.
So I
And,
mean,
yeah, he was fighting all the time. And I thought about that too, because I was watching it and I was telling my wife, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this movie because there's so much talking. I was like, I would have been asleep as a child. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any talking. I just
Yeah.
want Godzilla to be
Yeah.
smacking stuff around.
Stomping.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that too, and I think for 1954. I went back and watched Godzilla like 2 weeks ago, 1954 version, and I got to tell you, it's a beautiful movie. Like
Yes.
visually, the cinematography is amazing.
Yep.
It's really, 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 really a beautiful movie. Special effects, obviously, I don't penalize for
No.
if I watch an old film and the special effects aren't up to snuff,
Right.
so I didn't care. I didn't mind that Godzilla looked kind of
Trash.
strange.
It was trash. He was trash. You could say it.
I mean,
Yes,
arguably
yes.
he might have looked better than some of the later Showa era Godzillas, but
Yeah, and I agree with
This
you
is
there
true.
too. With the
This is true.
big googly eyes that he had. Yes.
Oh
I
yeah,
agree.
yes. Because I mean, I guess we're going chronologically, but Shin Godzilla, man. I guess he was doing like a Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan thing. So they were like, he's in his second form, he's in his third form,
Yeah.
and those first couple of forms, he looked like like a Teletubby or something.
Yeah,
Like it was
absolutely.
really,
Yeah.
really terrible. I was like, there's in retrospect, I'm like reanalyzing all of the Godzillas, and I'm like, there was some oddly Godzilla looked like he had life in his eyes. His eyes didn't just look like buttons.
No.
It didn't look like a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
It really looked like there was something behind that face. I mean, like a brain and everything.
They did a
It
good
did
job of that, of
right.
making it of making him emote for the most part. So
Yes.
I believe the eyes were a big part of that.
Yeah, and they and Godzilla got mad, man. And that was the greatest thing, that Godzilla sometimes really, he's like, you humans are really pissing me off right now, and I'm really gonna start smash. I was just walking before, but now I'm smashing stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. And going back and watching it, they definitely didn't play that one because it definitely didn't have enough action
No.
for us children.
Yeah.
So it was all about the monster versus monster times. And it's weird to me, some of the Godzilla's original names were like not even Godzilla in the title.
No.
And I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
As we go through time. And I was surprised like you, Arco. I went back and like looked at the chronological order of them, and I was very surprised that he fought King Kong so early on in his career. And I was also surprised how frequently they made these movies, because
They made 3.
the first one's
Yeah.
the first one's 1954, second one Godzilla Raids Again 1955, and Godzilla King of Monsters 1956. That's 3 years in a row. Like Hollywood can't keep up with that type of, like, that would be an amazing trilogy right now if you could get them out that fast.
Yeah. I mean, James, if you didn't know this, that the main person, that the main director, his name was Ishiro Honda, who at the time was the Quentin Tarantino of Japanese filmmakers at the time, and he was kind of the young gun back in 1952 when he came out with his first film. 2 years later, Toho gave him the reins of this of Godzilla, and he ended up making 8 over the next until 1975. So I believe he has the record of quote unquote of directorial director duties for the Godzilla films. But to Sharif's point, in the Showa era, they were really pumping them out, and I'm not sure why. I can't say that I am an expert on Japanese filmmaking, However, in 1964, they came out with three films. Okay, it was Mothra. Excuse me. Within 1 year, Mothra versus Godzilla, Ghidorah the three-headed monster, and then Invasion of the Astro Monster, all within 12 months. So, I mean, they were pumping them out because they were making money for what these films were. So it was all about the profit at that point.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to find out. I was really curious how much the first movie made in like theaters in Japan, and it was super duper hard to find that information, like what the budget was for the first Godzilla, how much they made on the back end. But I would imagine selling the rights to America was probably like a windfall for
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
They might have made the whole budget of the film
mm,
when they sold the rights
yeah,
to show them in America,
yeah,
because they were playing like we all said, they were playing on WPIX. So I would imagine it wasn't a lot for them, but for the producers of the Godzilla, it was probably like, whoa, they just wrote us a check for
How,
$200,000,
yeah. How much money? Yeah, yeah,
So that I just I feel like that would have influenced the frequency of Godzilla movies coming out, and also for Japan. Like Japan really respects Godzilla movies, and it's interesting. I can't wait till we talk about the the American versions, right? So there was a time where it was all Japanese for a
mhm,
very very long time,
right.
and I had always thought Japan stopped making Godzilla movies and we took over the reins, but that's not true.
No,
Always back to back to back to back to back,
yeah,
and throughout the history, and we never took over the reins. So everybody's interpretations, and never just Americans,
yeah. Mhm.
so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the research. I know that like after World War II, the Japan kind of like put a kibosh on talking about the atomic bomb and talking about it. So filmmakers couldn't do anything with it until like 1953, 1954, and Godzilla was like one of those first movies that you were allowed to talk about what happened with the atomic bomb. So I wonder, like, I don't know enough about it. Like, I wonder if like pumping these movies out was like sort of like, well, we can finally like, we got this monster. We can finally like talk about the horrors of like nature because I mean science fiction, as
Right.
we find, science fiction always reflects the times or the horrors that came before it, I think.
Hmm.
And while they got Godzilla kind of got away from quickly the that metaphor, I think he still represented that to viewers.
Well, I don't think that they actually spoke about the the atomic radioactive part of Godzilla and how he was created through atomic energy, or the tests, or actually the actual bomb dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the first film. I think that they very rarely went back to it afterwards because, like Sharif said, they were or you may have said that the allegory was kind of put to the background, and now it's much more about, well, we have him here, so let's just make him either fighting against somebody else, or humanity's protector is what he became. and
Right.
and unfortunately that's when things started going a little goofy. Not that we cared when we were kids, but looking back on it, like, all right, that's a little. Now they started talking at one point too during the '60s, so you can imagine the amount of shrooms people were taking to make these guys talk. So
What was that? His son Mila or Mila
yeah,
was
Manila was the
Manila could talk.
son, and
Manila could talk
Yeah.
Manila
and
could
change
talk.
size.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
that was
Was
yeah.
he the one? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was he the one? I remember Baby Godzilla. I think instead of shooting a beam of energy,
He did the
he would shoot
bubbles.
a
Yeah,
little. It
yeah,
was a little onion ring
yeah, yeah, yeah.
of smoke, and
Yeah.
that would go and hit people.
Yeah,
Okay.
unless Godzilla stepped on his tail, then he would get like and then it would come out. But yeah,
Yes, once Baby Godzilla showed up, things kind of went off the rails. I mean, that's also the time he fought the smog monster, and then flew himself with his radioactive fire backwards to chase
Yeah.
Hedorah through the sky.
Yeah, to
So
look like a shrimp. Yes, I know.
Right,
It was
right. And he was flying on his tail. He would jump and
yeah,
slide
yeah,
across
yeah.
the world on
Yeah.
his tail. And man, those are. And you remember that one where he was like, it was had aliens in it and stuff, and
They all had aliens.
he was like jumping up,
That
doing
was
these like
that
weird poses.
that was against Astro Monster, and he was
yes,
fighting King Ghidorah,
Yes,
and
yes.
then the aliens be like, "Oh, what a happy moment! He's very happy," and you're looking like, what is like what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I remember the twins. Remember those little
Yeah,
yes.
small twin ladies?
the Mothra twins.
They talk for Mothra, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah,
like communicate with him
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that was really, really trippy in
It was trippy.
retrospect. You
They
know,
were they were
like
trippy.
when I was a kid, I was like, seems perfectly logical and normal, you know. But when I went back and looked at those, I was like, this is very, very
But
strange.
I loved all those monsters growing up. Like I
Yeah,
loved Mothra, I loved Rodan, I loved King
yeah,
Ghidorah. I mean, I remember all their names, like King
yeah.
Caesar, like or Caesar.
King Caesar was my favorite, and he was only in one film. So to have remember him out of everybody. I guess it was just the look and the sound. They all made different sounds and everything. So I loved King Caesar. They got to bring him back.
I mean, and he
Yeah.
was a goofy ripoff of like Ultraman, but Jet Jaguar was cool to me too. Like I like Jet Jaguar.
High fiving and everything.
Yeah, I mean, he's high fiving Godzilla at the end there when they're dueling with fighting against King Ghidorah. And I like Gigan. I mean, I loved all the monsters,
Yeah.
but
Guy Gann. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No,
Yeah,
they were all very well designed and super different.
yeah, absolutely.
King Ghidorah was really cool because his roar was totally different than Godzilla's
Oh yeah,
roar.
yeah,
His
absolutely.
abilities were totally different than Godzilla's abilities,
Hmm.
and he was a problem all the
Yeah,
time. Like it wasn't. I like that they never had it where Godzilla was able to like best somebody, and they had to like go back to the drawing board and
hmm
lick their wounds and get stronger. It was usually like this person is formidable,
yeah.
right.
right off the bat, and that was always a good character trait.
I just
But I just to piggyback off of what Arco was saying, I think it's really interesting that initially this had a much more serious tone. It was right World War II, and it was about something that they really weren't supposed to be talking about, which was the atomic bomb. So I thought that was a really astute point. And also, like, after that, it like Arco said, they said, well, we got Godzilla now, so let's have him fight everybody, and just like let's just go crazy.
yeah. I mean, it was great. I mean, I love those movies. Always play the Goofy to go back and watch. I have a hard time watching them now, but I mean, you have to appreciate them. But and because I think my era, because I was born 1980, so like I saw those movies growing up, but the movie like that like really captured my imagination since I never saw the original Godzilla was Godzilla 1985. I was like, whoa. Like this is like we're going from him being silly and dancing to like this is a serious scary movie. Like Godzilla's a scary dude.
It was, Jen, and that film actually came out in 1984, and is the beginning of what is called the Heisei era. So, in case anybody doesn't realize this, and I didn't until recently, they have three distinct eras of Godzilla films: the Showa era, which is referencing the Showa Emperor, Emperor Showa is how he was known, and then the second one is his son, and that was the Heisei era, and then the third one is the Millennium era. No Emperor Millennium, but just they came out around 2000, and it's the third set of films. And the Heisei era is my personal favorite
Mine too. I
because because like you said, James, it's a little bit more serious. There's a more serious tone to it, and all of the films pretty much interact with each other. And I'm a big continuity fan. So while they don't pick up, they really do pick up for where one left to the next one. So that was always great for me. But not only that, but Godzilla's look, I think, was absolutely perfect in those films. Not so much the first one, which came out in 1984, but it was called 85 here in America.
I mean, Biolante's Godzilla, they nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they kept that look going until Destroyer in 1996.
Yeah, I mean Heisei era is my era. It's also the era where I don't think I've ever seen them in chronological order because that's when the U.S. stopped importing them as
Yes.
regularly because I think it was in the Space Godzilla one or the first Mecha Godzilla in the Heisei era, World War II. The Japanese-U.S. relations were strained based upon like what the movie depicted is what I'll
Right.
say because I don't remember the movie that well, but they were
Mhm.
hard to get. Like you'd only got those movies if you went to a comic book convention, and sometimes the guy wouldn't have all the videos or because I was picking like these up like bits and pieces, and
Yeah,
then
you would get them
Yeah.
2 or 3 years after they came out originally in Japan. Like
yeah,
I didn't see Biolante until 1991, and
yeah.
it came out in '89.
Yeah, Violente blew my mind though. Like I thought, like Return of Godzilla was like
Mhm.
creepy and weird, and I was like, "Whoa, this
Yeah,
is like
no, I
like
agree.
the fight with him, the ultimate form of Violente
Yeah,
at the end."
absolutely.
Like there was some like Violente like speared Godzilla through his hand, and I was like, "I've
Yeah,
never seen any monster like hurt Godzilla like that before in my life."
this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
And like Sharif, to your point, like Godzilla was pissed. He was
Yeah,
pissed. He was
Yeah,
yeah.
upset.
and they were amazingly able to illustrate it. And I don't think they get enough credit for their puppeteer work, like it was really some next level stuff, especially at that time. And I mean, like think about even in America, like our monster, well, not our monster, but you remember what was that show, the dinosaur show?
Dinosaurs.
It was dinosaurs, but it was like a
Yeah,
sitcom.
yeah,
Right.
it was like Peter Griffin as a dinosaur. Yeah, yeah,
So I always think about that because I'm like that type of that those animatronics, although pretty good, I always thought Godzilla was like the birth of like really emoting, making puppets emote.
hmm
And that always I always did think about that over the years with Godzilla. And I love that his roar remains the same.
yeah.
That
They change
is
it every once in a while, but I
yeah,
mean they
but slight
yeah,
alterations
slight alterations.
on an amazing
Yeah,
roar. Like his roar is
absolutely.
really, 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 really great. And
Yeah.
really, I think the T-Rex in Jurassic Park owes some
Oh
credit to
yeah,
Godzilla because the
absolutely.
roars are
Similar.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
know, and not to get too out here with the nerdiness, but they recently discovered how a T-Rex really sounds, and it's nothing like Jurassic Park.
Now,
It's like a low, like kind of like growl thing.
right?
And it is scary, but if you grew up with Jurassic Park,
Yeah,
nothing compares.
yeah,
So I thought that was really interesting.
yeah.
And then they said that they really used a koala bear. Apparently koala bears have a really, really like crazy sound that they make that's
Right.
super dangerous, even though they seem adorable.
Yeah.
So they use that for lions and tigers and the MGM logo and stuff. So I just thought that was interesting, soundscape wise. Like it's pretty amazing that that roar could still resonate today. Like it doesn't sound crazy. Like me and Arco are kind of like film buff nerds, and we know like we talk about the Wilhelm scream. I don't
Uh,
know.
the
I don't know if you're
Wilhelm scream.
familiar,
Yes. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of sounds that Hollywood's been using
Yeah.
for like years and years. And so I
Absolutely.
as soon as I hear them, I perk up because I know like
Yeah.
there's kids laughing and playing. There's one of those, and then there's a scream that I think they used in one of the Scream movies. They used the scream person.
I'm sure they did. They use them in
Yeah,
commercials, so
yeah. So I think it's really kind of a testament to the power of Godzilla that that roar is still the same and still like bone chilling. Like
and James, if you played that roar for anybody, and even
Yes.
if they've only seen half of a film, they would tell you exactly where it's from. Okay,
Well, I think
so
like we
yeah,
always talk about on this program, like there's icons who like if you dropped in the middle of nowhere and you showed a picture of like Superman, Batman,
yeah,
Wonder
everybody's gonna
Woman,
know what it
Spider-Man,
is.
Wolverine, I think like what's this giant lizard?
Yeah,
It's Godzilla.
That's
It's
all.
Godzilla.
They have a different name for it, like in the Middle East or China
Right.
or whatever, but everybody knows it's Godzilla.
It's Godzilla. Yeah, he's I think he's just as iconic as any one of those other
Yeah,
pop culture
yeah.
people that like. And I
hmm
also appreciate like if you really think about continuity, like I know the Showa era didn't have continuity, but we always think about the MCU. The MCU is like this first gigantic continuity across all movies. Like, and I was like, no, there's two other continuities that always come to mind. One is Universal Monsters had a continuity with their movies.
Right.
Two, Godzilla, and if you don't want to count the Showa era, Godzilla in like I said, the Heisei era, like that was like so much so continuity that I lost track of some of the threads because I missed some of the movies when they were coming out. But
absolutely.
But yeah, they've been doing continuity, and like Sharif's point, they kept his his roar consistent since that first roar appeared. Like these are people who like recognize like, oh, Godzilla's something we have to always harken back to his origins. As much as we change the character and retool the character, at least in in Japan, like they always honor or paying tribute to the original design. It may be reworked or retooled, but I was listening to whatever podcast it was or YouTube video in preparation for this, and they were saying what Roland Emmerich was like, I don't want to pay any tribute to any of the designs when I do this movie. Like, I think, and I was like, why?
And Toho regrets that to this day, because after that, they gave him one shot. He had one job to make money on this. It almost couldn't fail, and it did. Leading in 1998, for folks, by 1996, Godzilla was dead, and figuratively in every way. Toho killed him off, and they said that they weren't going to do any more films, which allowed Hollywood to come in and Americanize, or like Sharif told me the other day, bastardize the version of Godzilla. And I remember seeing the trailers where they riffed off on Jurassic Park. There was a trailer where, there's a bunch of kids and a tour guide are in the museum someplace, and they're looking at the, big statue of a dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus Rex, and all of a sudden, Godzilla's foot comes down and crushes it. We were looking forward to that film so much, and I have to say, I know people can't see my face right now, but I had a look of when I saw the actual monster, and after the film was over, because then you went from a fake Godzilla, and they called him Zilla after that thing, and then the movie actually devolved into a Jurassic Park ripoff of the raptors and everything at the end. So that film left a lot to be desired. I know that it has some fans, but I believe that those fans don't know any better. So
I mean, there's any movie is always somebody's like favorite.
No,
movie,
I know.
So
I have to admit, now I've told you this before, Arco, but I'm sure you blocked it out. But Godzilla, I like to call it Godzilla with Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, okay.
It was a guilty pleasure for me.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I didn't love it. I didn't say this is a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but there were some components to it that I really enjoyed. And so I used to watch it. I had it on DVD, and I used to watch it all the time, and I just didn't tell anybody. I mean, it was just it was like a true guilty pleasure. Like, I never told anybody.
That's like me in Grease too. So don't worry about it.
So what I'll say, I think hearing, I didn't know that Ronald Emmerich had said that. Him saying that makes a lot of sense. And anytime anybody says this, like, I don't care about the original material, I never read the comic books or anything, like the TV show was trash, the cartoon was trash. Anybody who says that, their movie's always gonna suck, because you don't even know, like, if you don't have that childlike love for the original material, it doesn't matter if it aged well or not. If you don't have that love for the original material, you can never make something great. And I think that was the problem. I hated the redesign of Godzilla. I thought he was terrible. And I know what they were going for. They were going for him to be much sleeker and kind of, slinking around buildings and stuff. But me, I'm like, well, have you never seen a Godzilla? Godzilla doesn't sneak.
Yeah, no.
Godzilla, you always know when Godzilla's coming.
Exactly.
It's a big deal when Godzilla's coming to town.
Yeah.
And Um,
he can't be in the sewer system, and then that's where they put him. It's like well, we lost him. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was. I think it was in the first film where they were like, he can't. He's not going to be able to get on land. So
Right.
don't worry, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to be fine. He
Right.
can't get on land. No worries. And as soon as he
Yeah.
stepped foot on land, they were like, "Yeah, we were totally wrong about that, and we're all gonna die."
Yeah.
So I didn't appreciate that aspect. And obviously the human story in that was terrible. And now it is a trope of Godzilla to not never care about the humans, like never have a protagonist, really, kind of just people kind of dealing with Godzilla.
Right.
And sometimes they thought that showing all the machinations behind how we deal with Godzilla would be entertaining for us and be like the way for humans to be involved. Like, what are we going to do?
Right.
And to me, I'm like, what is this, city
Yeah.
planning? Like, I don't
Yeah.
care about this at all. Like,
Yeah.
and I never was like, get these stupid people out of the way. Let's see Godzilla. I was always wanting there to be a compelling human story, and it
But
just
to add to piggyback with Sharif said, they could never really pull it off. And I don't care if it's the Showa era or the Heisei era did that okay. Did all right because they really knew what they were going for there. It was all about the monster and the ramifications of him on the surrounding area of Tokyo and everything and Japan. Okay. Matthew Broderick, nobody cared. Nobody cared about Hank Azaria and his girlfriend. Nobody cared about Matthew Broderick's. Harry Shearer, he was great, but but you know what? But how many monster films do we see that we say we don't care about the human element? So why is it still there? So I never understood that. I will tell you that I'm not a fan of the Millennium era as much as I was the Heisei era. I've seen the films. A couple of them were good. James, you and I have spoken about Final Wars because that was, just that was all out, madness battle, which was great.
Well, that's when what was it? Godzilla dispenses with Zilla in like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
that
was great, and the martial art aliens were like. It was like, I knew that tuna eating monster couldn't do anything, So, referencing, Godzilla '98 and everything and all the fish and everything. So, the Millennium era to me, the Heisei era was fantastic. It was the peak of Godzilla. All right, up until the three eras, it was the peak. And then Millennium was sort of like doing its own thing a little bit. None of the films were canon. They weren't connected to each other. Each one was standalone, so that kind of breaks it up for me. And I'm not a big fan of that, but some of them were okay. Final Wars, I knew it was going to be the last one for a while, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one for what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, there was I forget which movie it is in the millennial area, but the one where Godzilla has white eyes, I really like that design of
that one. Okay, that was called, real fast, hold on a second.
I always think of that as like the Hell Godzilla or the Devil Godzilla.
Yeah, no, it really was because it was called Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. Came out in 2001, James, and that one was basically Godzilla was the embodiment of all the dead spirits of World War II.
Oh, okay.
And that's why he had the white eyes, and he was going out of his way to mutilate everybody, And he not only wet battled against other monsters. The humans had to actually summon these guardian monsters, which happened to be King Ghidorah, who was good, Mothra, who was also good, and there was another one that was a flying squirrel, who I can't remember, who ended up being set on fire by Godzilla. Usually you just kick him and he walks away, but no, he made sure there was a hole in this guy. So, that was actually very good. That was actually probably the best one of the Millennium era, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just remember the design for the creature was so for Godzilla was so striking. Up until I guess we've already touched on this until the Shin Godzilla was like really striking. This is like a whole I know Sharif was talking about the goofiness of the early forms, but that final form of that creature was like whoa.
Yeah. So what James is referring to, Sharif had mentioned earlier, going from 2004, Godzilla was not seen again up until 2014, and lo and behold, we had another Hollywood version of it, and the beginning of what would be the MonsterVerse. If it did not work out, though, we would not seen these other films that we are looking forward to right now, which is Godzilla versus King Kong 2 and all that. But that film in 2014 had Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch in it, so with Jonathan, what's his name? I'm sorry, what's his?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
and Walter White was in it too.
yes, absolutely. Brian
Yes.
Brian Cranston was in it. Was supposed to be the big
Yes.
star, and Elizabeth Olsen was in it. So, again, they tried to bring these big stars of the time into it. I mean, Walter White, he's 1 year out of dying, being the meth king, and he was kind of lost in the shuffle. I mean, again, the human element of that film was totally lost. Hell, they didn't even show Godzilla. Looking back on it, I was like, when are they going to bring this thing out? They didn't even show him in its full form for 1 hour. It wasn't until the
Mm.
1 hour mark, and it wasn't until the last 20 minutes of the film that it was just madness that he was in there. But that film made just enough money for them to develop a shared universe, which we didn't know was actually happening until we saw Kong Skull Island, and of course you had the post-credit scene where you see that these two had fought previously at some point in the past. So that's how you knew that they were working on a shared universe. I personally loved all the films. I really did. I just get pissed at the human part of it. It's almost like they're trying to shoehorn the humans into it. Please stop talking. Just give me King Ghidorah killing everything.
Exactly.
That's it. Really is. I don't care which Skarsgård is in there. I don't care. What's her name? Was it
Well, Millie
something?
Bobby Brown from
Yeah,
Stranger Things
I
was in there
don't
too.
care. I don't care. Although Ice Cube's son was in the King of the Monsters one with King Ghidorah in it, so he was pretty good. But I love what they've done with the shared universe and explain it, and they've done so well, James, that they just came out with a Apple show
I know.
with Kurt Russell and his son, Wyatt Russell, playing the same character 30 years apart, and it worked very well. If anybody has a chance, it's called Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV, and
I've heard nothing but good things. I don't have Apple
Yeah.
TV right now, but I've heard nothing but
yeah,
good things.
very good. Sharif, you seen it?
I saw the first episode.
Mhm.
I thought it was great. Let me
Yeah.
just talk about just for 1 second. Let me
Yeah.
talk about Godzilla 2014.
Okay.
So Godzilla 2014 comes out. The trailer is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The dudes are jumping out of the plane. They got the streamers coming from
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson is in it, and who I love, who's he's kick ass
Yeah.
to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so or Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very serious in this role. He was not playing around.
Yeah.
And I knew Bryan Cranston was in it. So in that opening, so I think it's like the first 20 minutes of Godzilla is amazing.
Yeah.
Like at that point, I was like, wow, they're about to really make a serious, like, this is not disappointing. The trailer did not disappoint. And then after that 20 minutes, after Bryan Cranston, well, dude, can we spoil? We can spoil, right? That
Yeah,
movie's
we can spoil that. Yeah.
So once Bryan Cranston dies, I was like, what the hell is going on here? And I knew there were going to be no stakes, no character development.
No.
And then it all just went out the window. And it was setting up a lot, and I understand that. But for me, what was promised to me in the trailer was humans that we cared about, a storyline that we cared about, somebody with a grievance against Godzilla, and they didn't deliver on any of that. They didn't stick the landing. After 20 minutes, it was the same thing. Like you should at this point in Godzilla's history, you should not be saying, when's Godzilla coming?
Yeah, no, I agree.
If you're saying when's Godzilla coming, that means they haven't done their job.
I mean, I think it's like what the American filmmakers or producers of Godzilla don't seem to get that Japan always got is like Godzilla's the star.
Yeah.
He may not be a real person,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's the star.
Yeah.
Everything else should be built around his presence on screen.
Right.
So you don't need like big name actors to be in a Godzilla movie. You just need Godzilla to be good, and then hopefully they fit around him properly. But that's I think like that's
Yeah.
what's taken away from these American movies.
We care
Yeah.
more about the monster than we do about the people, right? And that's kind of sad, but that's how I grew up, and it worked for Japanese films. Why can't it work for ours?
Listen, I often equate Godzilla to Michael Myers and
Halloween.
and Freddy. I mean Jason.
Yeah.
So in those movies, Jason and Michael Myers are the stars of the film, and you want them to come. Now, you do want some nice stories, you want some people, you actually want it's a horror trope, right? So you want people to care about, and then they get killed. Like that's what you paid your money for. Like
Yeah.
that's what you want. You want to care about them. You want them to build up the story because they're going to get killed.
Yeah.
And but you want to care about them getting killed. So I think that's the disconnect a lot of times in America, and it's so weird because King Kong they seem to understand a lot better. Like King Kong always has a human that he's cool with, or like a little girl or a woman or somebody.
Yeah.
King Kong always has a person that resonates with him that he doesn't want to kill, and he's also smart. Which Godzilla sometimes they don't make him intelligent enough because
they make him a brute,
right, and he can't he can be that if he's just going to be the villain. But if you're trying to make him the savior of humanity, he needs a person that he cares about. Even Mothra has it's Mothra with
twins,
the twins,
yeah,
right?
The twins, yeah.
Mothra has the twins. Everybody, every person, every creature needs a human connection. Like there's Michael Myers movies where he's like, I don't want to kill this person. They seem kind of cool. So you have to have that in there. And I just think America hasn't figured it out. Now, although they haven't figured it out, they've still given us some amazing visuals and some amazing fight scenes. So like Arco said, the Godzilla versus Kong is I can't say it's a great movie because I can't.
No, but it's great for what it was.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And listen, me and Arco talk about this all the time because we're both movie butts and we're kind of on the opposite sides. I'm like, I like Oscar winning and critically acclaimed, and he likes popcorn.
Yeah.
But I had to. I have to get in touch with my popcorn, right? It's like sometimes you need popcorn. Like you can't just have vegetables all the time. And, sauteed steak. You need the popcorn. So I think that these movies tapped into that. I think they gave fans what they wanted, which they want. Even though this new trailer of Godzilla, me and Arco talked about this, but Godzilla and King Kong jumping out of the ground,
running
out of the ground like Michael Jackson at a concert, and then running top speed like track stars. Yeah. It's off-putting, but still we're like, where are they going? Who are they going to fight?
And where can I get my tickets?
Exactly. Shut up and take my money. Yeah. So I think there's been, I think America's understanding at least the main thing, which is, all right, you don't know how to write people. It's fine. But we have Monarch, which is important because they're like, an archaeological, scientific funded organization that's looking for the monsters. Yeah. And that's enough for me.
Yeah.
Normally, there's nothing. There's no infrastructure. There's no Godzilla team, And I think having a team, even if the humans are not going to be very compelling, still having the team is very, very interesting in them kind of figuring out things about them. And I even like now this underground world. What is it called? It's not. It should be called Middle Earth, but it's not.
Yeah. You know what? It's. You know what?
I don't remember. I just saw a commercial too, and they were talking about.
I don't know why I forgot it, but
all right. So, This underground world thing, I think that's a really cool place. Like
Yeah,
it's sort of like an upside down world,
yeah,
and it's kind of like you dig down and then you flip upside down, and that's all really really cool.
yeah.
And
I
I like
agree.
that they're all down there because that makes sense. Because otherwise, God, King Kong can't be on an island,
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree.
If he's on an island, yeah. So Godzilla on an island doesn't
There
make
you
any
are.
sense to me, right? Godzilla is just on an island and he
Mhm.
just doesn't leave. You know,
Right.
like
Yeah.
he can't swim,
Yeah.
and so he just doesn't leave this island. You know, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I
So
agree.
having him in this weird world that's underneath, great.
Right.
That's a great
Which
plot
is where he's
device.
going to be, where he. So yeah, Sharif, you're absolutely right. I think what they're doing is, Bill Randa, who was played by John Goodman in the Kong movie back Skull Island back in 2017. He hypothesized that there was a different world underneath the earth where all these monsters were either living or traveling through these tunnels to get to different places all over the world quickly. And it came to be that in the Monarch show, anyway, that how that happened, although they did show that in Godzilla versus King Kong in 2021. And, I think that they are now going to have King Kong living down there. I am staying away from all the plot lines that are out there. So, but it is where the energy that has been powering these titans has been coming from. There's a lot of radiation down there and that's where they come from. Basically, humans really can't travel there easily. And they show you why in the Monarch show and how they can get down there. So, a lot of those questions were answered there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also to talk about what you were talking about, I really love the scene of John Goodman drops
Mhm.
his suitcase in the
Oh,
water
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's recovered, and we see the
Mhm,
whole journey of the
mhm.
suitcase, and I really, really
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I also liked that people like you the way they talked about the tragedy of Godzilla.
G-Day. Yeah, that's what they called it.
Right,
Yeah.
and how impactful that was on people to the
Mhm.
point where they're really thinking about it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good thing that they did in Shin Godzilla.
Mhm.
It was a American liaison, but she was Japanese.
Yeah.
Well, second or third generation
Mhm.
Japanese, and so she kept saying in the movie, she's like, "This is the I don't want the place where my grandmother was born
Mhm.
to be destroyed again."
Again.
You
Yeah.
know, and I don't think I can handle another Godzilla attack.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was really interesting. And they're doing a little, I haven't gotten into the Monarch series all the way,
Mhm.
but there is a Japanese woman character,
Mhm.
and she's sort of has a similar plot line for her.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool way to go.
Yeah.
This kind of like this trauma of this event that echoes through generations of people is
Mhm.
like,
You
that's
know,
like
and that harkens back to what happened with dropping the bombs on Japan for ending World War II. How many generations did that affect? And it affected the way that people lived. It affected the way that people thought. It affected the filmmaking. The generations were affected by it. And James, I don't know if you noticed this, but uh, all the damage that you see in the Showa era or even the Heisei era, you know, none of it, intentionally. It doesn't look as real as it could be. But here you are in the I'm sorry, who legendary, it's the legendary universe of the MonsterVerse.
Mhm.
You know, things are being destroyed. Just haphazardly, and buildings that we remember in San Francisco were destroyed. Chinatown was blown up. All that stuff. This is what this is the destruction that you should be seeing when you have 300-foot giant lizards and fighting and destroying things, and the amount of people that dead. And this is what people should be worried about, and this is what these films have shown to the consequence and the fear. And again, in Monarch you see that to the nth degree. So I believe that for its failings, at least the human element of the storyline, they show the human consequence that these monsters bring on the world that was not there before. And that is the horror aspect of it. Maybe not to the point that you're shielding your eyes watching it, but at least you'd be like, wow, this would be messed up if something like this really happened.
No, I can't wait to take a look at it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm up for a good, compelling human story, just like they haven't done it in the American versions. And
This you'll have that in Monarch if you have a chance to watch it. I don't think we're gonna get that in the next film, but I don't care. I just want to see
no, I
I just
mean, in
want to
the
see
next
giant
film,
apes killing each other. All right.
yes, that's the thing. You know, like when that first came out on HBO Max during the pandemic, and
Yeah.
my friends, other people would ask me, did you like it? It's like, yeah, I got what was delivered. I saw a giant ape punch a giant lizard in the face. That was like that's what I was here for.
This
That's
is
what I
great.
got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more on top of a ship, no less. This is great. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as much as we love the old films, the
Mhm.
fights were not
No,
amazing in
no, no.
retrospect. The choreography of the fight was not the best. But these new fight sequences
Yeah.
are really, 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 really top notch. And I think we're in an era where we've seen Superman fighting Batman in a suit, and Marvel and Thanos, and so we've kind of gotten accustomed to amazing fight scenes. So I think for them to deliver on these fight scenes today is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. If
Yeah.
they can, you know what I'm saying? Like the bar is so high right now for fight scenes because we've been exposed. Like there was a time where Superman fighting anybody wasn't, like, it was poorly done or
Yeah.
not a lot of stakes. And so I think now we're our kind of our special effects quotient, our our appreciation for a really, really good fight has increased, and they've
They,
risen to the
they,
task.
they delivered. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say,
So,
James?
well, I was going to just mention actually before, just like kind of going, we were talking about with Monarch showing the devastation and the reality of having giant monsters walk around. Like the listening to some of the stuff commentary on like the original Godzilla design is that the Godzilla design is meant to embody everything the atomic bomb did and left in its wake. Like Godzilla's head is supposed to be designed to look like a mushroom cloud. His scales are meant to look like what people who exposed to radiation skin looks like. The fact that he's radioactive, if you're in his vicinity, you are radioactive. The fact that he torches, and like I guess the way that they described the whipping of his tail and the blowing of his fire is like a much like how the
Yeah.
atomic bomb expands it. So,
Hmm.
like everything that Godzilla is like a living embodiment of what the atomic bomb
Yeah.
is. So, I mean, it's been changed obviously over the years, but that was the original
But
Gojiro's
that's what
design.
makes the original so memorable, uh, and beautiful, and really the one film in the entire series that is truly sad and terrifying at the same time. And it wasn't so much science fiction until after that film. That film was really just it was a drama that had a monster in it. But again, the monster was always meant to be an allegory for the atomic bomb
Yeah,
and
well,
its horrors.
they're making an allegory for something, an event that didn't happen that long
Yeah,
ago. So
yeah,
I'm sure everything was still fresh in
yeah,
their mind. This is probably a good segue from the original Gojira Godzilla to like the current minus one,
yes,
which I've heard has a lot of throw like similar feelings to the original one. I have not seen
hmm
this, so
yeah,
I'll let you
yeah.
two talk
But
about minus
we
one a little
won't
bit.
spoil it because James, we would love to do a follow up on this particular
Yes.
episode just for minus one. But it is uh, uh, pretty much. Uh, it touches upon all of the feelings and um, the history of the original Godzilla and what it meant and what it was supposed to mean. This one probably was the closest to it. And without giving anything away, if you watch this film and you are a Godzilla fan, you will not be disappointed in either the monster or the story, and most importantly, the human element of this, because it may be the most important part of the entire film, and it brings it all together, in my opinion.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about Godzilla minus one is technically, well, not technically, it's a reboot.
Yeah.
right? So this is really truly in its essence a remake of the original Godzilla film.
Hmm.
And I think, and obviously reworked and totally different, but definitely everything that was supposed to happen in the original is revisited. And I think it's so good that we don't call it a reboot.
No,
Like
no,
no
no,
one
no.
has ever said this is a reboot of Godzilla. No one's ever said that. Like
Yeah.
everybody. So before I saw Godzilla -1, it was kind of on my radar, and I was like, oh well, it looks really good. I think I'm going to check it out. And then my high school friend Charles Smalls, perhaps you remember Charles,
I remember
Charles.
Charles.
Charles, who never talks to me on Facebook, he reaches out. He's like, "Hey, bro, did you see? No, how are you doing? How you been? It's been 45 years. Have you seen Godzilla -1? No, I have not, but it's on my list. You need to see it, bro. It's amazing." And that was it for me. Anytime I'm normally going to see every movie that comes out, no matter what. But anytime someone reaches out to me like that,
Hmm.
it's got to be seen like immediately.
Yeah.
Like if you come to me and tell me like that, then I know I need to see it like this weekend or like
Yeah.
tonight. Like it's super urgent that you're reaching out to me in general. And anybody who tells me, Sharif, you need to see this movie, because like all of my friends know I'm
You're,
a movie
yeah.
aficionado.
And we know your tastes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so he knew that this had what I wanted and what I
Hmm.
had always been wanted. And I think people are pretty good about knowing that they wanted a human story in Godzilla. And people have been very vocal, and fans have always been vocal that the human stories were trash. So this young director, man,
Hmm.
he got it, man.
Yeah.
He really did.
You know,
He
Sharif, let's go back one film in this new era of films, because there is a name for it, and I apologize, I cannot remember it. But in this new era of films, it started. They are Toho, who is the parent company of Godzilla. It has said that we are going to be concentrating on quality over quantity. We're not putting out films just to put them out. We want to have a good story. We want to have a good monster, and then we will have a good film. And they have. They came out with Shin Godzilla, which itself was a soft reboot of sorts. It was a different retelling of Godzilla, of the mythos of Godzilla and what it came and how it came about. And that was fantastic. It was a different look, but everybody loved it. And that was in 2016. We had to wait 7 years to get a new one. And this one, as great as that film was, and it won the Best Picture Oscar, Japanese Oscar, but Best Picture in Japan in 2016. This one blew it out of the water. I would not be surprised if you saw that happened again. It's already made the most money out of every Godzilla film out there. It's made the most out of every monster film worldwide. So it is something to see, James. So
I mean, I think it's the first Godzilla movie since the original to get a wide release, because I know Shin Godzilla got a limited
limited,
release,
yeah,
but it's the
one
first.
week in America, and this one is still going in some theaters here in America, and it's been like 3 months. So
And the original Godzilla, I think it got wide release. I think it was
that
the
yeah,
Americanized.
1956 with Raymond Burr, which is really just the original with just some snippets of Americanized Raymond Burr in there watching it from a hotel room, and
Well, actually, I
monologuing.
think what was I listening to today? They said that movie, which I still haven't seen. I have to go watch that because they never showed that movie either
No,
when I was
no,
growing
no,
up.
no.
But that movie only has like 60% of the original movie in it. They
Yeah,
cut
they
40% of
did.
the
It
movie.
was again bastardized, but this is what we do. This
Uh,
is what we do here. So.
yeah.
Arco, the current era is the Reiwa era, Reiwa era of Godzilla.
Well, I'm sorry. Yes,
I
that's
think
the
that
new one. Yes, that's what the new one.
yes.
Which also includes, and James, we spoke about this before. It also includes the cartoon movies on Netflix, which, again, somebody out there likes them. Whoever that is, let me know, because I did not like them. They were
You
slow as
watched
anything.
them?
Oh yeah, I watched them, but I mean, the first one was actually the only good one because it had Godzilla or Godzillas in it, whereas
Yeah.
the next two ones were like, what am I watching? You know, and
Yeah,
it
I
was
kind
it
of fell
was
asleep through the
it,
third
it
one.
was it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah,
So
I started it and I didn't finish it.
yeah, no,
So yeah, it wasn't doing anything for me. I like the concept of it,
hmm
but it wasn't doing anything
yeah,
for me.
no, it wasn't. No.
Is our guy Arco? Is he gonna get a trilogy
Mm,
for -1?
Um, well, he did say that they would like to do a sequel for
Mm-hmm.
this,
Yeah,
and if you see the film, of course, there is a way that could happen. However, they are still sticking to the story of they're sticking to their guns. Of like, if the story makes sense, we will go with it. If not, we'll go in a different direction. If they waited 7 years to do this second film, and it's totally different from Shin, so and I love Shin, so if it works that way, then I'm happy with it too. But whatever they do, I'm all in. I mean, until they show me that they crap the bed, I'm all in.
Which is, it's kind of funny based upon sorry, your two's movie taste, which I'm sort of in the middle of you two. I like a good
Yeah,
Oscar movie, but I also like a
yeah,
popcorn movie. So,
yeah, that's fine.
but that's sort of like, it's sort of like America's giving us popcorn, and Japan's like, we're gonna give you the Oscar, Godzilla. You want
Yeah,
yes, that's very true. Like it's legit in the running for best. It might be nominated for best foreign film category if it's not nominated for best picture this year. There is a real possibility that it could be in there, which
it,
would
it was there in a bunch of top
obviously,
10 lists. It was in a bunch of top
yeah,
10 lists.
yeah,
When would you ever think that? But I love him dearly, like a brother, and he was my podcast mate for life. But Jason walked out on the film within a half hour, and he says, "I know I'm an outlier because I see all the reviews and everything." He did not get into it, and I don't understand why. Because by the time he walked out, he hadn't even seen the monster really, and as he was
yeah,
supposed to be, and I think that
yeah.
that would have changed his mind. But
I
so
think so too.
but I can't understand it. But and he's smarter than I am, so what can I say?
Unfortunately, I think he represents the Oscar crowd though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it is a possibility that this will not resonate with them. And sometimes so I watch tons and tons of YouTubers and talk to my wife about them like they're my friends. I'm always like, yeah, Chris said this, and she's like, who? And I'm like, the guy on the YouTube. So Godzilla -1 has been in a bunch of YouTubers' top 10 movies,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they're not popcorn guys. They're Oppenheimer's in there, and
Yeah,
Godzilla -1 is in
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So I do believe that I think I think it could be a younger generation thing, but then again, maybe not really, because Generation X is me and Arco and you, James, right? You're Generation X, right? I can't tell. You look great.
Yeah, no, yep. I'm still Generation X. Yep.
Yeah, so Generation X is loving this, and I think it's the reason why to me is that Godzilla -1 is fulfillment of a promise that the original Godzilla made to us as children,
Mhm.
right? We were young, we didn't know anything, but as we got older, we were like, well, what's the human story, And Godzilla -1 gives us that. And I
And
mean,
more, and then
yeah,
some. Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I, bro, I'm gonna tell you, James, I got a little choked up, man. It,
Yeah,
it could have
it
been my
was.
allergies. It could have been my
It's
allergies acting up. There's a lot
a
of
little
dust in the
verklempt.
theater. But I really got emotional,
Yeah,
man. And I felt for this guy, man. I felt for him. Like I was like, bro, like I've never I've never watched a Godzilla movie where I was like, Godzilla, you
yeah.
son of a bitch. Like you're really you're ruining people's lives, bro.
Yeah,
Like I've never felt that way
yeah,
ever. So to make me feel that Godzilla, I don't want him to win.
yeah.
That's a major, major, major crowning
Wow.
achievement
Yeah.
for this film, because that's never happened. Normally we're like, where's Godzilla at, man? These people need to
Yeah.
learn some lessons.
Yeah.
They're like, we think we're gonna do this to get rid of Godzilla, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
no.
dude, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, the whole point
Wow.
of the title -1 says it all, and then it says it in the trailer that Japan after World War II was brought down to 0. Okay, and they had to basically reset. Then Godzilla comes and puts them at -1. Okay, and that's
Oh,
it.
is that what the title
That's the
means?
whole point that they
Arco,
were.
see,
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
genius, man.
No,
Even though he
not.
likes popcorn movies,
I'm
he's really
hardly a
smart.
genius. If they didn't tell me that, I would not have known.
Okay,
So
you figured that out on your
yeah,
own.
yeah.
Is this Godzilla movie like was it like the Dark Knight of Godzilla
Yes,
movies?
that's
It
yes,
really is.
absolutely.
That's a great analogy,
James,
man.
when we do that, hopefully in the near future we can do the podcast on Godzilla -1, and you tell us if you think, because that was a great analogy, and I wouldn't have thought that myself. But yes, absolutely, this is the Heath Ledger of Godzilla's. Okay.
It's like
Yeah,
interviewing Godzilla. What'd you do to get in the role? Well, I went back to my roots.
Yeah,
I
pretty
remembered
much.
when I was a serious actor when I first showed up.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's
yeah,
very true, man.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I think about that, because Heath Ledger, and me and Arco have talked about this like
Mhm.
ad nauseum, but Heath Ledger was not the guy when he
No,
did The Dark
No, he was
Knight.
not the guy.
no.
This
He
is a
was
Knight's Tale. The guy from the Knight's
yeah,
Tale.
he was still kind of green, and he was still kind of new, and a lot of people were like the
And he
dude
was great.
from
He was great in those films too. Don't get me wrong. I love Knight's Tale. I loved,
yeah.
you know,
But there was no inkling that
no,
this
no,
darkness was in him, and
no.
that he was he. This is
That he was capable of this.
exactly, me and my friend we have a running thing about a seat at the table. So if you're an actor and you get to a certain status in your life, you get a seat at the table. And
Hmm.
there's not a lot of seats, and it's
Yeah.
not a big table. So a
Mm.
seat at the table means you've gotten to a place where, so Denzel, people will go and buy tickets for the Denzel movie. They will not say the title. They will say 2 for the Denzel movie, please. When you get to that level, that
Yeah.
means that you've made so many great films that they don't care what this movie is about.
Mhm.
They might not even have seen a commercial. All they know is that the new Denzel movie is out.
Yeah.
So when you get to that level, I feel like this director, he has me.
Yeah.
Like, if whatever he does next, I want to see.
Yeah.
Because
Whether it's a monster movie or not.
exactly, because
Mhm.
he knows he's a writer director, which I don't think, Arco, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've had very many writer directors on Godzilla films.
Only, well, actually, Ichiro Honda, I believe, the original director, also co-wrote the original film. So I'm not sure how many more of those he did. Out of the 8 more that he directed, I'm not sure if he wanted his name on a bunch of them, but at least writing them. But to your point, Sharif, absolutely 100% correct. This director has shown that at a young age also that he can take something as iconic and legendary as this franchise of 38 films, 33 of which from Toho are Japanese and the rest are American, 38 films, and turn it into something that nobody has seen before. When you do that from a film that originally started in 1954, to say that you can do that and actually pull it off is amazing to me. So
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that's just. I mean, as we always say with everything we talk about in this podcast, between movies and comic book characters and stuff, like a character in the hands of somebody with good writing and a vision can do amazing things. Can take a character who's like completely ridiculous, or take a character that nobody wants and can spin gold with it. So
Swamp Thing.
yes,
Guardians of the
even
Galaxy, man.
John Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. Like, who cared about Iron Man before?
For sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, Iron Who before?
I know,
this,
but I know Joe's a big Swamp Thing guy, so I just wanted to say that.
Well, I'm a big
I
Swamp Thing
know
guy
you're the
too.
Swamp Thing guy. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, he's coming back.
Yeah.
I heard that. I hope big things for
Yeah,
that. I
me
hope big
too.
things for that
Me
soon.
too. I'm looking
So
forward
Okay.
to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
yeah.
they like you said, sometimes people will go to this old territory, something that we know very well, and they'll put that spin on it that reinvigorates the series, reinvigorates the character, reinvigorates your love for the character. It doesn't happen very often. I'll say Dune is that. Um,
Oh yeah.
Dune, me and my friend are super duper fans of Dune. Dune is like a cult classic, the original Dune.
No, not me.
It,
I'm out.
I
I'm out.
know, I
I'm
know.
out. I'm out.
Listen, most people hate Dune, the
Yeah.
original
Yeah.
Dune, but there's a select few of us that love it. And obviously, the new Dune has taught us the era of loving the old Dune, right? Because the new Dune is so good. I'm like, what the heck was I liking about the old Dune? You know?
Yeah.
So, but I think it's amazing. Like now, me, I didn't like. I think his name is Denis Villeneuve, the director of Dune.
Oh,
Yeah.
Danny
Yeah.
Villeneuve.
Yeah, he did Blade 2049, which I did not care for.
Blade
And
Runner, right? Yeah.
yeah, Blade Runner
Yeah.
2049, which I did not care for.
Mhm.
So I didn't have any faith going into Dune. I was going to see it because I was going to see it no matter what, but
Mhm.
I didn't. I had low expectations and I was blown away. And I think this is the mark of like, you really turning the corner because now there are a whole bunch of Dune fans that don't even know about the original Dune.
Yeah.
This is the only Dune they know, and I love that.
A caveat though, James and everybody listening here, that Sharifo is also his love of films knows no bounds. He is also the man who watched The Adventures of Pluto Nash. So and actually did not walk out on it. He told me, "Well, I have walked out on Transformers too." So take it with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah,
No, listen. I appreciate Sharif's
Yeah,
insight.
of
I look
course, of
forward to
course.
Sharif joining us for
Yeah,
future
yeah.
episodes. But to wrap
definitely.
kind of this Godzilla episode up, I have to ask. Let's put -1 on the table, off the
Okay,
table, because it seems like it's a solid slam
okay.
dunk. What is your guys' favorite Godzilla movie out of all of the eras except for -1?
Okay.
Arco, I'll start with
Okay.
you, or
So
Sharif.
I'm also gonna take the legendary pictures off the table because it's the newest one. I loved 1991's Heisei era of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, because it was a different telling of that. And 1991 is the year that Terminator 2 came in, and there is actually a scene in this film that will remind you of Terminator 2. It was actual. I mean, the whole movie was a little bit of a fever dream of how Godzilla was created. How King Ghidorah was created. Of course, they have aliens in the films, and the aliens, of course, are American. So that to me is my favorite one out of all the films. To be quite honest, yeah. So yeah.
That's when they made what Mecha King Ghidorah, right?
Yes, Mecha King. But King Ghidorah was actually started out as three very cute little
Oh, that's right. And they got
and they
fused
got fused
together,
together.
and
Yes, and so there was a whole time shenanigans, of
yes,
course.
I know because
Yeah.
I watched that movie with a lot of interest. And like I have no idea what's going on, but I'm
This,
totally
I,
invested.
I, I love this. Yeah, so that's a great film, a great design of the Godzilla, and the story was, it worked, so it was good. So a big fan of that.
Excellent, Sharif. What's your all-time?
Oh man, it's really, really hard to pick, but I think I'm gonna go with uh Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla,
Are we talking about the Heisei era or the Showa era?
the 1975 one.
Okay,
Oh, the
which
Heisei.
was actually Mechagodzilla. That's the second one because there were
Right,
two. Okay, yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So I'm gonna go with that one. Only because as a child, I just remember a metal robotic
hmm,
Godzilla was really amazing to me
yeah.
and like so much blew my mind and so like tapped into everything that's great about sci-fi. And and what better person to fight Godzilla than a robot version of him. And
Right,
as you
right,
know, it's a super big trope in sci-fi and also even in comic books to make a robot version of
right.
your main character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Wasn't that the movie? Because I like I said, I binged like
Mhm.
YouTube videos on
Yeah,
Godzilla today. So if I remember, because I don't even know if I saw this movie all the way through because I just couldn't get it. Was that the movie where they based Mechagodzilla's built on the skeleton of the original Godzilla?
No, I believe that was actually in the Heisei era, and they did that. Uh, if I'm not mistaken, because the original Godzilla was killed in 1954, but they never referenced that again in the Showa era. If I'm not mistaken, somebody can correct me on that. But I believe that was later in the Heisei era where they did that. Uh,
Okay.
the film that Sharif is talking about is actually called The Terror of Mechagodzilla, and it's got Mechagodzilla 2. And they also had a monster on there called Titanosaurus, which had the
Oh yes, Titanosaurus.
which had the head of a seahorse, basically. So yeah, I mean that was the end of the Showa era. They were like, "Oh, we can't do this anymore. We're gonna stop."
Showa era was a hell of a time.
Hell of a
it
time.
was time for shrooms and
Yes,
drugs.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorites my favorite's gonna come from the Heisei era. I'm just trying to choose which one
Mhm.
I like, but I'm torn between two. So I'll
Okay.
just say
Yeah.
like Godzilla versus Biolante.
Okay.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Love it.
So weird, so
Yeah.
different, so like I said,
Yeah.
hardcore. Like
Yeah.
whoa. And then I really did like Godzilla versus Destroyer.
Yeah.
I
Destroyer was
I
great too. I agree.
love the monster design. I also just
Hmm.
love the idea that Godzilla's like he's a melting nuclear reactor who's
Yeah.
slowly like trudging through
Yeah.
Tokyo,
Just melting
and he's
everything
fighting,
down.
melting everything down, and he's melting while he's still battling
Yeah.
Destroyer. It's just
Yeah.
it's like a very I don't know. And I also love the ending of that movie where
Yeah.
they do a recap of the entire Heisei era
Mhm.
at
Oh
the end of the
Yeah.
movie.
wow,
Yeah. It
that's
was.
awesome.
Yeah.
I agree. It was that was a great film, and that would have been my only other one that I would have picked over King Ghidorah. So yeah, good choices.
Yeah, and I just want to say in closing, it's amazing this run of Godzilla from 1954 to current days,
Mhm.
to have two simultaneous series running at the same time for the Japanese versions versus the
Mhm.
American versions.
Yeah.
it- it's never been done before.
No.
Like
No.
this is unprecedented to
Working.
run this long.
Mhm.
I think I think the next one is going to be movie number 40, I
Mhm.
believe. I think that's going to be the 40th film. So
Mhm.
that is without a doubt, me and Arco kind of
Mhm.
talked about this a little
Yeah.
bit, the longest running series of movies, bigger than James Bond.
Yeah.
And you know James Bond is a titan
Yeah.
of industry to get rebooted, reimagined over and over again, and still be relevant today. Godzilla has stood the test of time, and listen, I'm on board for the next 15 to 20 movies,
That's it.
which is really in the
Yeah.
pipeline
Yeah.
now.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, Godzilla. I don't think they'll ever stop with
Yeah.
Godzilla. I mean, I think they'll take breaks, maybe like they have here and
Breaks
there.
is
But
fine. It's just it brings new blood into it and fresh ideas, so that's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of like the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
You think Ninja Turtles are gone,
Nope.
and then they're
Nope.
like, "Nope,
Nope.
here's some new Ninja Turtles for you."
Yeah.
So, well, this has been awesome, Arco and Sharif. Thank you so much for suggesting this, Arco. Sharif, I appreciate you joining us. You're both a wealth of knowledge, more knowledge of Godzilla than I have, and so I was just glad to hear both of your thoughts. And we're gonna have to reconvene once I get to see -1 myself.
Cool.
Definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. It was
absolutely.
my
So,
pleasure, James. It was great meeting you, and I look forward to coming back. I definitely,
yes, but aside from your Godzilla knowledge, we got to get you back for your comic book knowledge.
that's
We're
right.
gonna
That's right.
tap into the that X-Men
Oh
that
yes, yes,
X-Men.
Yeah.
please.
He may give me a ride for my money.
I was gonna say, Arco, you're the tenured professor, X-Men professor on this podcast. You may, I don't know, your tenure. Reconsider that, huh?
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, audience, if you've enjoyed this episode about the king of all monsters, Godzilla, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it in the Facebook page. We'd love to hear what your favorite Godzilla movie is, what you thought about -1, what you thought about our thoughts. So please leave your thoughts and comments on the Facebook group when this show drops. You can also follow us on Instagram at Secret Origins MC. And we thank you for listening, and we will talk to you on the next episode. All right, everyone. We're back. You probably, if I've edited this correctly, you just heard me sign off and say goodbye to everyone. But we realized, or I realized after we finished our amazing Godzilla episode, that we forgot to talk about probably one of the quintessential things that makes a Godzilla movie, and that's the music of Godzilla. I was telling Sharif before we signed on for this wraparound part of the episode that if the Matthew Broderick movie had Godzilla's theme in it, I probably would have enjoyed that movie a lot more than I did. So, what are you guys' thoughts about the music?
Honestly, James, you're absolutely right. It is the theme song for Godzilla, like when he shows up for the first time, the dun dun dun. It's thematic, it's grandiose, and you immediately know what it is. If you just heard it without watching the film, you know that it's Godzilla's music, that he just showed up. It's iconic, like I hate to say it, but you know it like Star Wars. You know immediately that the Star Wars theme is on, so the movie's on. You know that's how iconic it is for me. Sharif, what do you think?
100%, I agree. It's Jaws, it's Star Wars, all the John Williams hits, Indiana Jones,
Yeah,
Harry Potter. Now,
yeah.
like it's super iconic. Actually, the X-Men theme song is super
Oh, yes.
iconic too.
Yes, of course.
So,
It has become, yes.
yeah. So I think I I remember this music very, very well. And there was a rapper called Pharoah Monch, and he came out with a song called Simon. And that music starts the track and is looped into the beat.
Right.
And when I heard that, I knew it immediately. And
Yeah,
I said,
exactly.
"Oh, and it didn't matter what he was rapping about. That beat is amazing. You throw a bass line on that and loop it, goodness gracious, it's so amazing."
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry, real fast, but you know what? You know what's also great is that it's used in, if I'm not mistaken, every single Godzilla film other than the Matthew Broderick film and from 1998. Shame on them.
In the first Legendary movie, because Sharif and I were talking about it too. For some reason, it's mysteriously absent from the.
Yeah, right. But you know what? From the Showa series, Showa era and the Heisei era, every single one of them, and that's the little bit of continuity that you love in these films that kept it all together. Just the theme music. It didn't matter that the Godzilla looked goofy every other during the 60s. He had this music that made him the monster. It was the monster music that you loved, accompanying the visuals. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, no,
and it wasn't
definitely
over the top either. It was like I mean, it was, I guess, very slightly campy, but like actually grounded the movie, I think, a lot too.
I mean, to me, it was just an iconic theme, and it was not over the top at all. It was spot on, because it's a giant creature that destroys cities. So, like sometimes I think sometimes a superhero could have music that's a little too grandiose for his abilities, like this guy just is a street level fighter. Why does he have this crazy music? But Godzilla is I don't think you could go too big with Godzilla.
Yeah. Okay.
Like his should be like operatic.
It fits the size of the creature, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I bought this on iTunes like a while ago, but I bought the Best of Godzilla 1984 to 95, which is the Heisei era stuff.
Yeah.
Every theme there is like great from that era. Like even,
absolutely.
of course, Mothra's song,
Iconic.
song,
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
King Ghidorah's song. I mean,
Yep.
And these are all the themes that were established in the Showa era too. They just like
And then if you heard them, if you watched them like when we were kids and in the 70s and 80s, and then all of a sudden you're watching these movies a little bit later in the 90s and you hear these themes, it immediately brings you back to watching those films on WPIX or Channel 11 in the late 70s or early 80s. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Godzilla has there's the main Godzilla theme, but then he also has like the I think there's like a separate theme too, which I can't remember. Like there's the main theme, and then there's another theme when he's.
I don't know what it's called, but I was looking up the soundtrack as well, just randomly looking up the soundtrack, and I was looking up the soundtrack, and I heard this other song that I also know very well and remember hearing in all the Godzilla movies as well. And it's not that tough like hardcore Godzilla's about to kill. It's kind of relaxed, but just slightly menacing sound.
Yeah.
So that one, that one's good too. And really all of the music. And I didn't realize how much of the music I knew. You know, because I'm big in the scores, as Arco knows. I'm always like, "Hey, Arco, I just picked up that score," and he's like,
"I don't know what you're talking about." But okay.
Exactly. He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't make any sense to me." I don't remember that score.
You know, James, I believe that you in the past have also told me that you've picked up soundtracks and scores of films. So I love that the two of you actually have a commonality when it comes to films. You both love films, and the music reaches you both and brings you even deeper into the film than it does a person like me, because I may remember the Harry Potter film and the music that brings you once you that it comes on once you see Hogwarts for the first time, and every single time afterwards you always have that. But I don't hear the music in the back when he's fighting Voldemort, you know, and you guys do, and I know you do, because you know you've told me about the theme to this song and that battle and everything. I'm like, I don't know what the hell you guys are listening to. I'm watching the film, but yeah, it's really cool that you guys get into that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, like I always love themes, but you know, with certain as Sharif said, like John Williams and you know Alan Silvestri and you know and Jerry Goldsmith, like you can hear they make great themes, but also the subtle music for the characters and same thing with the Godzilla music. I listened to this whole album. This whole album's got like 29 tracks on it from the Heisei area, and I've listened to all of them. And all of them are good, and some of them I can't remember what scene they're from, but they're still good music.
Yeah,
so.
that's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Arco, I forgot to tell you. So what we went to go see Batman 1989 with the orchestra playing.
Oh, nice. See, that's
oh my
awesome.
goodness,
that's awesome.
And for me, it was like I was telling my wife, I was like, you don't understand how much this means to me, because the music was correct. Because I'm there waiting for them to mess up, right? And say, no, it had a little bit more oomph than that. I don't know what that clarinet is doing, but that's not how I remember it. So just to give you some idea of the power of music and how important it is, it was so great to hear it.
Well,
Danny Elfman.
I was just going to say.
We didn't mention my guy, Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman, lead singer from Oingo Boingo from back in the 80s. So, I mean, has made a great career for himself as a composer. And I'm just going to say that, you know, we have heard many of his music. Much of his music through the years, even though a lot of it right now just escapes my mind. But I know that he worked on Batman, and I know we're talking about Godzilla, but now that you brought up Danny Elfman, he put down a lot of ideas that Prince was handing out to the producers, and he really fought hard, even though it was his first big gig. And he said, you know, I'm just, you know, this is what I believe the movie needs, and Prince was a little bit too far out there. I mean, if you ever saw that video for Bat Dance, I mean, so kudos to Danny Elfman for really a second career for him through the years. Amazing.
Oh yeah, and just to list some of Danny Elfman's music, he did the theme song for The Simpsons.
Okay.
He did the theme song for Batman the Animated Series. He did Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, pretty much every Tim Burton movie you can think of.
And of course, The Nightmare Before Christmas, which he does live in concert every year.
That's awesome.
You
know what? If you ever see Danny Elfman, like in the he was in the movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes, he was. He was in the band.
He was in the band that he hired to for the big party. He looks like Tim Burton a little bit. So
that's funny.
Yeah, so that worked out very well for him. God bless him.
Well, this wraps up our Danny Elfman podcast. I'm sure if given the opportunity, Danny Elfman would score a Godzilla movie. He seems like that type of guy.
He would kill it too. He would kill it.
Last thing before we wrap up this episode, I guess officially, was the theme in Godzilla -1.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes,
and it was used to perfection.
And it really was.
It may have been used to the best that it's ever been used, actually. Because remember, Godzilla -1, this is menacing, dangerous, villain Godzilla. Right. This is not fun dancing
No,
Godzilla. This is
no.
the menacing. This is the Godzilla that you hate.
Yeah.
And so the music was perfect because it was truly scary.
Yeah.
And I guess it was always scary, but I loved it so much over the years that I never associated it with being scared.
Mhm.
But in Godzilla minus one,
Yeah.
it was scary.
The theme has always been a menacing theme. Okay, so dun dun dun, and he shows up, and so it does the roar and everything. But now you have the visual that is truly terrifying, and really the one, it's Jaws, but for Godzilla. There's one scene where it's right out of Jaws, and when you first see Godzilla in the water, and you finally have a visual on screen to match the theme of the music that is putting out there, and I think it worked amazingly, like Sharif said.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you
It's
guys
really,
had me
really
up for it
great.
even more. I
Yeah.
cannot wait to see this movie.
James, you will love it. I honestly, if you
I
want to spend a couple of bucks to stream it, I'm only upset that I wasn't able to see it in black and white when they re-released
I
it.
yeah.
know, me
Yeah,
neither.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
there
re-
was like just audience to let you know, we're recording this a little bit after our original Godzilla episode, but I heard that they had to pull it early. Well, not pull it early. They had to pull it 8 weeks before King Kong
yeah,
versus Godzilla.
yes,
They had a rule, so that's why
yeah.
it disappeared from
Yeah.
theaters. So
Yeah, and it
yeah.
made over $100 million, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about that, the whole budget of the thing was made for 15 million, and no Godzilla movie has ever made that much. A Toho film, anyway. It really is truly amazing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, can't
Yeah.
wait.
So,
Can't wait. I hope they decide to stream it. Right now, they have no plans on streaming it, which is kind of bizarre since it's nominated for an Academy Award. But
so let's buy it. Physical media still alive.
no, there's no DVD release either yet. There's like,
Oh God.
I don't
Oh
know why
my goodness.
I don't know why Toho's doing it, or unless maybe it has something to do with King Kong versus Godzilla. But
Maybe.
It's probably they're getting caught up in legal battles because, it's competing mediums.
yeah,
I'll wait.
I'll wait. Yeah. So, all right, audience. Well, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. And once again, Arco, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And Sharif, thank you for being here as well.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
And we will talk to you on the next episode. And at some point, we will have a part 2 once -1 comes out. I can see it, and we will talk about Godzilla -1.
Can't wait.
Absolutely.
Awesome.